Two paramedics disappear without a trace on a cold, quiet night shift in the city's underground subway tunnels. Their families are shattered, police puzzled, and months go by with no clues. Then, for months later, an ordinary inspection crew working in the same tunnels discovers something horrifying. Something that finally starts to unravel the dark truth behind their disappearance. Maya sat at the kitchen table, the dim glow of the nightlight casting soft shadows across the worn photographs scattered before her. Her son, little Eli, slept soundly in the next room, unaware that his mother was once again preparing for another long night underground. The soft hum of the refrigerator mingled with the distant sounds of the city, sirens, honking cars, a faint rumble from the subway beneath their apartment building. She folded her uniform carefully, smoothing out the creases. The same uniform she had worn for years now. Scratched, a little faded, but still holding the weight of every life she had touched. Single mother, paramedic, survivor. The roles blended together in her mind. She'd worked night shifts for months now, juggling Eli's school needs, doctor visits, and the endless worry that filled every quiet moment. Her phone buzzed, a message from her sister reminding her to take care of herself. Maya smiled faintly, then shook it off. There was no room for weakness, not with a kid depending on her. She glanced at the clock. 10:15 p.m. time to suit up. Across town, John was at his fiancée's apartment, packing an overnight bag. The small space was cluttered with medical textbooks and scattered plans for their upcoming wedding. A smile tugged at his lips as he imagined the ceremony. Sunlight streaming through stained glass, friends and family gathered, a promise to build a future. He kissed his fiancée softly. "I'll call you as soon as I'm done," he said. "Be safe, okay?" she replied, eyes full of concern. John nodded, adjusting his uniform jacket. Paramedic by night, future doctor by day, or so he hoped. His passion for medicine had grown deeper with every emergency he'd faced, and he was determined to make a difference beyond the flashing lights and sirens. The ambulance bay was buzzing with the quiet energy of night shift crews preparing to head out. Maya and John met at the squad car, exchanging a quick smile and a nod. A small comfort in the chaos of the city's underbelly. "Ready to dive into the depths?" John teased, sliding behind the wheel. Maya laughed, the sound light despite the weight of the hours ahead. "You know it. Just don't leave me stuck with the creepy tunnel rats." John grinned. "You're the tough one. I'm just here for moral support." Their radios crackled to life with the first dispatch of the night. A reported accident in one of the subway tunnels. No details yet, just urgency. They pulled away from the station, headlights cutting through the foggy city streets. Deep underground, the world was a maze of concrete and steel, dim lights flickering along tracks long forgotten by most commuters. The air was thick with dampness and the faint metallic tang of electricity. Maya checked her equipment again, her fingers steady despite the tension building in her chest. John scanned the map, navigating the narrow maintenance corridors with practiced ease. "Looks like a derailment near the West End shaft," John said. "Should be a quick response." Maya's jaw tightened. If there are injuries, every second counts. They moved together through the labyrinth, flashlights piercing the darkness. The echo of their footsteps seemed to bounce endlessly off the tunnel walls. "Remember that time I nearly fell into a ventilation shaft here?" Maya murmured, trying to ease the tension. John laughed softly. "Yeah, and I had to pull you out with one hand while holding the stretcher with the other." "Impressive." A brief smile flickered between them, a shared moment of levity in the shadowed tunnels. Their radios hummed again, faint voices updating the situation. They were approaching the scene, the distant glow of emergency lights barely visible through the tunnel bends. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The weight of responsibility pressed down harder now. Lives were on the line, and they were the first to get there. John glanced over. "We've got this. Together." She nodded, gripping her gear tighter as the unknown stretched out ahead, silent, cold, and waiting. And then the silence swallowed them whole. The last transmission was a crackle of static, Maya's voice trailing off mid-sentence. Then nothing. The phone on the desk rang incessantly, slicing through the hushed tension that had settled over the subway control room. A young dispatcher, face pale and eyes wide, juggled calls with trembling hands. One voice above the others was frantic, sharp with worry. They haven't come back. The paramedics. They just disappeared. They were supposed to check the West End shaft. The words came clipped, breathless, before the line went dead. At the same moment, in the subway maintenance office, a supervisor slammed down his clipboard. Get the cops down here now. Those paramedics haven't radioed in for nearly 20 minutes. That's not normal. Minutes later, officers in heavy jackets and tactical gear descended into the network of tunnels, their flashlights cutting through layers of dust and darkness. Their footsteps echoed off concrete walls, mingling with the distant drip of water and the low hum of subway trains rattling far above. They moved methodically, checking every maintenance shaft, every service elevator, every crevice where someone might hide or be trapped. Abandoned tools lay scattered, a flashlight with cracked glass, a half-empty bottle of water, but no sign of Maya or John. Near a narrow passage, a smear of dark liquid caught one officer's eye. Kneeling down, he traced it with a gloved finger. Dried, crusted, unmistakably blood. Possible struggle, he muttered, his voice low. Deeper in the tunnels, the faint smell of something metallic hung heavy. It wasn't just the usual scent of rust and stale air. It was something more, a scent of desperation. Back on the surface, families waited, wrapped in blankets and holding candles that flickered against the chill. Maya's son, Eli, sat on his grandmother's lap, clutching a worn stuffed bear, eyes wide and uncomprehending. Her mother's hands trembled as she dialed Maya's phone again, each ring driving a little deeper into her chest. John's fiancée paced in her apartment, staring at the door, willing him to walk in. A voicemail from earlier replayed in her mind. A clipped, garbled message that ended with an urgent, "Help us." Outside the hospital, vigils were organized. Strangers brought hot coffee, blankets, and words of comfort. But the pain hung thick, palpable. Meanwhile, investigators scoured security footage from stations along the line. Grainy images showed Maya and John entering a restricted section, their movements confident but hurried. They stepped through a heavy metal door, locked behind them. No footage showed them leaving. Questions mounted. Why had they gone into the closed section alone? Was someone waiting for them? Had they discovered something dangerous? At the scene near the service elevator, a detective crouched to examine an object half hidden in the shadows. A single glove, faded and stained, its surface mottled with dark red. He carefully bagged it, his mind racing. This wasn't just an accident. The tunnel walls seemed to close in as the investigation deepened, swallowing answers into their cold, endless depths. And somewhere in the shadows, the truth waited silent and watching. What secrets did that glove hold? How did it tie into the vanished paramedics? The search was only beginning. The small apartment felt emptier than ever. Eli's birthday balloons hung limp, their bright colors muted under the dull glow of the kitchen light. The half-eaten cake sat untouched on the counter, a silent witness to a celebration missing its most important guest. Eli clutched a worn teddy bear tightly, eyes darting toward the doorway every few seconds, hoping his mother would walk through it any moment. "Happy birthday, champ," his grandmother whispered softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "Mommy's working tonight. She'll be home soon." Eli nodded, but the ache in his eyes told another story. A child suspended in waiting, caught between hope and heartbreak. Down the street, John's fiancée, Lisa, sat curled on the edge of the couch, hands wrapped tightly around a mug of cold coffee. The calendar on the wall mocked her with its ticking days, each one marked with a question mark. Nights were the hardest. She found herself reaching for her phone, only to pull back, afraid to hear silence again. Her phone buzzed, breaking the heavy quiet. A message from a coworker. "Still no word? Stay strong." She typed back, "Trying," then deleted it, unsure if words could bridge the growing void. At the firehouse where Maya had trained, her brother sat on the worn bench, a smirk breaking through the exhaustion etched on his face. "Can you believe Maya ghosted her midnight shift?" he joked to a friend, voice low but tinged with dry humor. The friend laughed, shaking his head. If she's ghosting, she's got the best disappearing act ever. But beneath the laughter, a weight pressed on his chest. A brother's helplessness. A family unraveling in slow motion. Friends and colleagues gathered in muted clusters, sharing memories of Maya and John. Stories surfaced. John's infectious laugh. Maya's fierce protectiveness over her son. The camaraderie of the team felt fractured, replaced by whispered fears and unanswered questions. "Do you think they're alive?" someone asked, voice barely above a whisper. "No one knows," came the hollow reply. Hope became a fragile thread, stretched thin by days and weeks without news. Each new lead, each cold trail, was met with cautious optimism, only to be crushed by silence again. The limbo was relentless. Lisa stared at the phone one late evening, thumb hovering over the call button. The ringing stopped, replaced by voicemail. She hesitated, then pressed play. A distorted voice filled the room, muffled and broken. "Help? Trapped? Please." The message ended abruptly. Lisa's breath caught. Was it John? Was someone still out there trying to reach them? The room seemed to shrink around her as the weight of uncertainty pressed down. The unanswered calls, the fading messages, the growing void. It all whispered one terrifying possibility. What if help was too late? And somewhere, buried beneath layers of concrete and secrets, the silence waited to be broken once more. Months had slipped by, marked by countless unanswered questions and the slow, grinding machinery of an investigation that seemed to go nowhere. The city's subway tunnels, those sprawling arteries of steel and concrete, held their secrets tight, untouched, except for the occasional echo of distant footsteps or the drip of water seeping through cracks. It was a Tuesday morning when the inspection crew arrived. Ordinary men and women, decked out in high-visibility jackets and hard hats, carrying tools and equipment meant for routine maintenance. Their conversations floated over the clatter of boots on metal grates and the hum of flickering fluorescent lights. "Water's been seeping through this section for weeks," Mark, the team lead, explained as he scanned a worn map of the tunnel network. "We're here to patch leaks before the rainy season hits. Nothing fancy, just some plumbing and sealant." Lisa, a technician with a sharp eye and a practical mind, frowned at the damp patch spreading across the concrete wall. "Looks worse than I thought. This might take a couple of days." They descended into the labyrinth once again, the same tunnels where Maya and John had vanished 4 months earlier. None of them spoke about it much. The disappearance was a grim whisper in the background, something too heavy to dwell on during a day's work. As the crew advanced, the air grew colder, thicker with damp and dust. Their boots echoed through narrow passageways lined with rusted pipes and aging cables. Every so often, the lights flickered, momentarily plunging them into shadow before buzzing back to life. Mark stopped suddenly, eyes narrowing at a section of the tunnel wall. "Hold up, this hatch here doesn't look right." The metal was warped, edges jagged and bent inward as if something heavy had fallen against it. The bolts were corroded, but one looked freshly disturbed. "What do you think happened?" Lisa asked, crouching down to examine the rusted latch. "Could be years of wear and tear, or maybe someone tried to force it open." Mark grabbed a crowbar and began prying. The metal groaned in protest but gave way slowly, revealing a narrow passage leading downward. A maintenance shaft long forgotten, concealed behind layers of grime and neglect. One by one, the crew peered inside. The shaft was cramped, descending into darkness. A faint, musty smell rose up. Earth, mold, and something else, something faintly metallic and unsettling. Tom, the youngest on the team, stepped forward, pulling out his flashlight. The beam revealed a small jumble of debris, broken tools, a rusted helmet, and most disturbingly, scattered medical supplies. Gloves, sterile packaging torn and yellowed, a shattered syringe casing. Lisa's hand froze on a crumpled piece of fabric caught on a jagged pipe. She tugged it free. A torn piece of a paramedic's uniform, faded but unmistakable. The blue-green fabric was stiff with dirt and something darker. Mark's eyes widened. This isn't just some old junk. A battered radio lay nearby, its speaker crackling with static whenever it was nudged. The frequency was low, almost inaudible, but the noise was there. A ghostly remnant of someone trying to communicate. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't what they'd signed up for. Mark pulled out his phone, hands steady despite the chill creeping up his spine. We need to call this in. Now. Outside, the city bustled unaware, commuters rushing past subway entrances, oblivious to the horrors hidden beneath their feet. Back underground, the hatch yawned open, revealing the suffocating depths below. A claustrophobic chamber filled with shadows and secrets. What else lay hidden in that cramped space? The police arrived just as the inspection crew secured the area. Their presence was immediate and overwhelming. Officers in tactical gear, forensic teams with delicate instruments, and tunnel engineers carrying blueprints and measuring tools. Every movement was precise, every breath cautious in the oppressive underground atmosphere. Detective Ramirez led the group, his expression hard but eyes betraying a flicker of hope long buried beneath frustration. He exchanged a brief nod with Mark, the crew leader, before descending the narrow shaft where the torn paramedic uniform had been found. The air grew colder with every step, a dampness seeping into their bones. The tunnel walls closed in tighter, rough concrete giving way to rusted metal catwalks and tangled wiring. Flashlights bobbed rhythmically, casting long, jittery shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. Ramirez crouched to examine scrawled graffiti on the tunnel wall. A series of strange symbols and desperate messages, some scratched crudely, others painted in hurried strokes. "Help me. Trapped. Alone." He read aloud, voice barely above a whisper. Lisa, a forensic technician, traced the faded paint with a gloved finger. These markings aren't recent, but not ancient either. Maybe a few months old. They moved cautiously forward, the silence punctuated only by their footsteps and the distant drip of water. A faint, stale odor wafted through. A mixture of sweat, decay, and something metallic. John's notebook lay half-buried beneath a pile of rubble. The worn leather cover was cracked, pages yellowed but legible. Maya's locket caught the beam of a flashlight nearby, tarnished but unmistakable. And close to it, a simple gold wedding ring glinted faintly in the gloom. Ramirez's breath hitched. Personal belongings, signs they were here. The tunnel floor was uneven, loose panels jutting up like teeth. Carefully, engineers pried one open, revealing a shallow cavity beneath. Inside, disturbed earth and fragments of cloth, evidence of graves hastily concealed. The grim reality settled like a stone in their stomachs. Back above, in the temporary command tent, samples were collected, bags sealed with care. Every scrap of evidence could be a key or a curse. Days passed with agonizing slowness. Finally, the DNA results arrived. Ramirez stared at the screen, disbelief shadowing his features. "They weren't just here," he murmured. "They were trapped. All this time, the paramedics had been prisoners in the labyrinth beneath the city, their fate entwined with the very tunnels meant to keep the city moving. What horror had silenced them for so long? What nightmare had kept them hidden in the cold, suffocating darkness? The answers were just beginning to surface. Weeks into the renewed investigation, a name began to surface quietly but persistently in the background. Lenny Griggs. Once a respected subway engineer, Griggs had earned a reputation for brilliance tinged with instability. His knowledge of the labyrinthine tunnel system was unparalleled, but so was his growing obsession with the idea that the city's underground was a cesspool needing cleansing. Lenny hadn't been seen since the same week Maya and John vanished. Detective Ramirez sat across from Griggs' former supervisor, a man named Carl, in a dimly lit interrogation room. Carl's hands trembled slightly as he recounted the last months before Griggs disappeared. He was different. Started talking about purifying the tunnels, how the city was poisoning itself from below. Claimed there were things happening down there. Things the city didn't want anyone to know about. Carl's voice dropped. He was warning people, paramedics included. Told them to stay away. Said if they didn't, they'd be swallowed whole. Ramirez leaned forward, pen poised. Threats? Directed at Maya and John. Carl nodded grimly. Yeah, heard some of it firsthand. Griggs was volatile, and when those two showed up on that call, he was furious. Elsewhere, files and documents painted a darker picture. Unmarked vans, strange deliveries during the late hours, whispered rumors of human trafficking using the tunnels as passageways, off the official maps, beyond the reach of authorities. And drugs. Large shipments moved through secret shafts and abandoned sections. Maya and John, trained eyes and curious minds, might have stumbled onto this hidden world when they responded to the call. A former transit worker, recently retired, sat across from Ramirez in a small cafe, voice low. They were poking around where they shouldn't have. Asked too many questions. The kind that get you noticed by the wrong people. He sipped his coffee, eyes darting. Griggs? He wasn't just a crazy engineer. He was a protector of his own twisted code. If he thought those paramedics were a threat, he'd do anything. At the precinct, detectives combed through phone records, emails, and security footage. Griggs' last known location was a derelict building on the outskirts of the city. His apartment was found abandoned, walls scrawled with maps, notes, and cryptic warnings. His survivalist obsession had grown. Detailed plans of underground bunkers, emergency caches of supplies, escape routes hidden within the tunnels themselves. Where was Leonard Griggs now? Did he remain underground, a ghost navigating his self-made labyrinth? Or had he fled into the city's shadows, waiting to strike again? Detective Ramirez stared at the photos pinned to the board. Griggs' gaunt face, the paramedics' belongings, the hidden shafts. One question haunted him more than any other. Was Griggs the key to the truth, or just another piece lost in the darkness? And somewhere, deep beneath the city, the tunnels whispered secrets only the brave or the damned dared to uncover. The morning light filtered weakly through the heavy curtains of Maya's small apartment. Eli sat on the edge of the bed, fingers clenched tightly around the worn teddy bear his mother had given him for his last birthday, the one she hadn't been able to celebrate with him. His eyes flicked to the phone resting silently on the bedside table, each unanswered ring slicing through the fragile quiet that had settled over their home. A sharp knock came at the door, breaking the stillness. Maya's mother opened it to reveal Detective Ramirez, his face lined with exhaustion but carrying an unmistakable gravity. Without preamble, he stepped inside, glancing at Eli before turning to Maya. "We've found something," he began, voice steady but gentle. Belongings, evidence, signs they were trapped underground. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as memories of her son's birthday. The balloons, the empty chair, flashed through her mind. Eli's hand reached for his grandmother's, small fingers trembling. "Mommy's coming home, right?" Maya swallowed hard, voice barely above a whisper. "We're going to find her. We have to." Across town, Lisa sat stiffly in the cramped office of the Transit Authority, the weight of months of waiting pressing down on her chest. A police officer led her through the back corridors to the tunnel entrance where the search had reached its harrowing peak. The metallic scent was sharp, the air thick with dust and damp. Her eyes scanned the cold, concrete walls, heart pounding as she imagined John somewhere in that suffocating maze. The investigators briefed her quietly, revealing the discoveries, the personal items, the makeshift camp, the grim evidence of captivity. A sob caught in her throat as the reality crashed in. This was no accident. This was a nightmare come to life. That evening, the subway station near the entrance to the tunnels was transformed. Community members gathered, candles flickering in hands wrapped tightly against the chill. Soft murmurs of prayers and memories filled the space, faces illuminated by gentle flames. A makeshift altar held photos of Maya and John, surrounded by flowers and notes. Strangers and friends alike stood shoulder to shoulder, united in grief and hope. Maya's mother spoke softly into the crowd, voice cracking. "They were heroes, and we will never stop searching for the truth." Lisa lit a candle, her fingers trembling. "We owe them more than silence." Later, at the precinct, Detective Ramirez sat alone reviewing a battered phone recovered from the tunnel site. The screen was cracked, the device nearly dead, but still, something stirred within its memory. He pressed play. A voice, faint and strained, filtered through the static. Maya's voice, whispering urgently, fragmented words. "Help! Trapped! Don't give up!" The message ended abruptly. Ramirez's heart tightened. This was more than evidence. It was a plea, a final thread of connection stretching through the darkness. What else lay hidden in that damaged phone? Could it unravel the last mysteries? Or would it only deepen the shadows? The answers waited, fragile and fragile as the candlelight flickering in the night. The crackling voice on the battered phone was no longer just a fragment of static. It was a window into the last, desperate moments of Maya and John. Their words, strained and trembling, painted a harrowing picture. "John, I don't know how much longer we can hold on," Maya whispered, voice barely audible. "The air is thick. It's hard to breathe. If someone finds this, please, tell Eli I love him." John's voice followed, rough with exhaustion and pain. "We tried to find another way out, but the passages, they keep closing. I'm scared, Maya, but I won't give up." The recording ended with a faint, agonized cough, then silence. Detectives pieced together the chilling sequence. Leonard Griggs, the disgraced engineer, had waited in the shadows of the tunnels. Using his intimate knowledge, he had lured the paramedics into a concealed maintenance chamber, one that could be sealed from the inside. Once trapped, Maya and John found themselves prisoners, forced into a deadly game of endurance. Efforts to escape were met with blocked passages and collapsing debris, their hope crumbling with each failed attempt. Days turned into weeks in that suffocating underground cell. Injuries, dehydration, and the cold slowly eroded their strength. Their radio transmissions faded as batteries died. Their voices, once vibrant with life, became whispers lost in the concrete void. Griggs was discovered months later, not in the tunnels, but holed up in an abandoned building on the city's outskirts. His appearance was gaunt, eyes wild but resigned. Under interrogation, he confessed. His bitterness toward the transit authority and paranoia had twisted into madness. He saw Maya and John as threats, witnesses to secrets he intended to keep buried forever. Back in the precinct, officers reflected quietly on the tragedy. 2 lives dedicated to saving others, extinguished in darkness and silence. Their final acts were not of surrender, but of courage, holding on, calling for help, refusing to be forgotten. But the shadows beneath the city were not yet silent. The questions lingered, heavy and unresolved. What changes would come from this heartbreak? How many unseen dangers lurked beneath the streets we walk every day? The sun dipped low over the city skyline, casting long shadows that stretched toward the subway entrances, silent gateways to the hidden world beneath. Above ground, life pressed forward. Crowds hurried, cars honked, and neon signs blinked with the relentless pulse of urban rhythm. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy lay a network of tunnels and passages, forgotten, dark, and fraught with unseen perils. Maya and John were more than names now. They had become the quiet emblem of sacrifice etched into the very foundations of the city they served. Their courage wasn't marked by fanfare or headlines, but by the countless moments when they answered calls others feared, descending willingly into shadows to bring light to the suffering. Their families bore a grief too profound for words, a grief carried in silences and memories, in birthdays marked by absence and rooms that echoed with the faintest traces of laughter now gone. Yet within that sorrow burned a flame of resilience, a determination that their loss would not be in vain. The city's infrastructure, often taken for granted, revealed its cracks, not just in concrete but in oversight. The labyrinth beneath streets demanded respect and vigilance, a reminder that the unseen dangers lurking there required protection for those who ventured into the depths. Calls for reform stirred. Better safety protocols, improved communication systems, and dedicated rescue units trained specifically for the underground's unique challenges. Recognizing the heroes who navigate these dangerous spaces became not just a gesture, but a necessity. Maya and John's story is a solemn testament to bravery that often goes unnoticed, the kind born in the quiet moments between life and death, in spaces where light rarely reaches. They remind us to look deeper, to honor those who stand between chaos and calm, even when the world above remains unaware. As the evening grew darker, candles flickered softly in a vigil held at the station entrance. Faces, young and old, glowed with reverence as photographs of Maya and John rested amid flowers and heartfelt messages. The gentle sway of flames echoed the enduring spirit of two lives forever intertwined with the city's pulse. The tunnels lay quiet once more, their secrets still held tight beneath layers of stone and steel. But in every whispered breath of wind through those corridors, the memory of Maya and John lived on, silent guardians, eternal symbols of sacrifice, courage, and unwavering hope. The sun dipped low over the city skyline, casting long shadows that stretched toward the subway entrances, silent gateways to the hidden world beneath. Above ground, life pressed forward. Crowds hurried, cars honked, and neon signs blinked with the relentless pulse of urban rhythm. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy lay a network of tunnels and passages, forgotten, dark, and fraught with unseen perils. Maya and John were more than names now. They had become the quiet emblem of sacrifice etched into the very foundations of the city they served. Their courage wasn't marked by fanfare or headlines, but by the countless moments when they answered calls others feared, descending willingly into shadows to bring light to the suffering. Their families bore a grief too profound for words, a grief carried in silences and memories, in birthdays marked by absence and rooms that echoed with the faintest traces of laughter now gone. Yet within that sorrow burned a flame of resilience, a determination that their loss would not be in vain. The city's infrastructure, often taken for granted, revealed its cracks, not just in concrete but in oversight. The labyrinth beneath streets demanded respect and vigilance, a reminder that the unseen dangers lurking there required protection for those who ventured into the depths. Calls for reform stirred, better safety protocols, improved communication systems, and dedicated rescue units trained specifically for the underground's unique challenges. Recognizing the heroes who navigate these dangerous spaces became not just a gesture, but a necessity. Maya and John's story is a solemn testament to bravery that often goes unnoticed, the kind born in the quiet moments between life and death, in spaces where light rarely reaches. They remind us to look deeper, to honor those who stand between chaos and calm, even when the world above remains unaware. As the evening grew darker, candles flickered softly in a vigil held at the station entrance. Faces, young and old, glowed with reverence as photographs of Maya and John rested amid flowers and heartfelt messages. The gentle sway of flames echoed the enduring spirit of two lives forever intertwined with the city's pulse. The tunnels lay quiet once more, their secrets still held tight beneath layers of stone and steel. But in every whispered breath of wind through those corridors, the memory of Maya and John lived on, silent guardians, eternal symbols of sacrifice, courage, and unwavering hope.